as the screen gently softens and the opening picture fades into darkness, allow your eyes to rest, letting the quiet stillness of evening settle all around you. Take a slow, comforting breath, allowing the noise of the day to drift away like leaves falling softly onto cool moss. Tonight, we begin a calm journey into the quiet memory of the earth, traveling to places where time is recorded not in ticking clocks, but in the peaceful, steady growth of living trees. Imagine standing at the edge of an ancient forest at dusk. The warm twilight settles through the canopy, filtering light into deep shades of amber and shadow. The air is cool and fragrant with the clean scent of pine needles and damp earth. Here, under stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, everything moves at a patient pace. For centuries, trees have stood as silent witnesses, drinking in rain, reaching toward sunlight, and measuring the passing seasons with quiet devotion. Within the core of every trunk lies a delicate map of summer warmth and winter rest written in faint, concentric circles. Our path takes us back to the high forests of northern Arizona, where fresh mountain air rustles gently through needles overhead. In the early 1900s, at Flagstaff's Lowell Observatory, astronomer Andrew Ellicott Douglas established dendrochronology while attempting to trace ancient sunspot cycles hidden within Arizona ponderosa pines. Douglas had spent years studying the sun, looking up through telescopes to trace dark spots on the solar surface. He wondered if the natural rhythms of solar energy might leave a mark on the earth below, shaping rainfall and guiding the growth of living wood. Turning his gaze from the sky to the forest floor, he began examining the cut stumps and fallen logs of native ponderosa pines. As he studied the light and dark rings formed year after year, he discovered that each ring preserved a clear record of local climate. Wide rings reflected generous years of rain and snow, while narrow rings marked periods of quiet drought. By matching these shared patterns across different trees, Douglas realized he could align their timelines, creating a continuous calendar written by nature itself. Through this thoughtful work, a bridge was built between astronomy and the terrestrial world, revealing how solar cycles and earthly forests are bound together in harmony. Every tree becomes a quiet storyteller, safeguarding memories of sunlight, snowfall, and lingering seasons deep within its heartwood. There is a deep comfort in realizing that the earth keeps track of time so gently, holding each passing season without tension or strain. Long after voices have hushed for the evening, the trees continue their silent work, preserving the subtle rhythms of rain within their hidden rings. Now, as the screen remains dark and the stillness of the night surrounds you, allow your mind to rest in this unhurried space. Let your body grow heavy and warm, releasing the tension of the day into the quiet air. There is nowhere else you need to be, and nothing more you need to do tonight. The ancient pines stand tall under the midnight sky, breathing slowly with the cool breeze, anchored deeply into the peaceful earth. As you drift toward sleep, Let yourself be carried by this quiet timeline of wood and wonder, where every year is held softly, offering a gentle invitation to rest. High above the desert valleys, where the air grows thin and the night wind moves with a soft, steady sigh, the gnarled trunks of great basin bristlecone pines cling to the steep, rocky slopes of California's White Mountains. In 1957, dendrochronologist Edmund Shulman extracted slender core samples from twisted Great Basin bristlecone pines in California's White Mountains, discovering living trees like Methuselah, whose microscopic annual rings have quietly recorded alpine weather since 2832 BC. These resilient trees, sculpted by centuries of mountain frost and golden summer sunlight, grow with extraordinary patience, adding thin layers of wood so fine that several decades may span only a fraction of an inch across the trunk. Within each minuscule band of growth lies a serene record of a single year, a season of harsh alpine drought, a gentle spring of melting snow, or a calm summer of clear skies. Resting upon these high, peaceful ridges beneath a vast and luminous canopy of stars, the ancient bristlecones stand as living sentinels, holding the distant memory of past millennia within their quiet, weathered bark, unbothered by the passing of human generations. The silent records preserved in ancient timber extend far beyond the high mountain peaks, stretching down into peaceful river valleys where dense, primeval woodlands once flourished long ago. Deep within the cool, quiet beds of winding rivers, fallen tree trunks have lain sheltered in layers of gravel, silt, and soft clay for thousands of years, preserved from decay by oxygen-poor waters. The Hohenheim chronology in southern Germany spans over 12,500 continuous years back to the last ice age, assembled by cross-matching ring patterns from thousands of subfossil oaks retrieved from riverbeds. By meticulously comparing the distinctive patterns of wide and narrow growth rings across overlapping lifespans of these submerged timbers, scientists slowly pieced together a continuous, detailed master record of Earth's changing climate history. Each subfossil oak, lifted gently from the ancient river gravel, offers a quiet window into forgotten seasons, carrying the subtle signature of spring rains, warm summer suns, and peaceful winter slumbers that unfolded long before recorded human history began. As these riverbed treasures are examined, they reveal how nature's rhythms have repeated in steady, reassuring cycles across immense stretches of time. When we pause to listen to these silent wooden archives, the relentless pace of modern life fades away, and time itself seems to slow to the restful rhythm of a forest's steady breathing. A single growth ring forms gently over many quiet months of morning dew and afternoon light, as the tree draws nourishment from the cool soil to weave a delicate, enduring tapestry of heartwood, whether clinging to windswept granite crags high above the mountain clouds, or resting undisturbed beneath the tranquil currents of an ancient European riverbed. These enduring wooden chronologies remind us that the living earth keeps its own peaceful and impartial journal. The quiet fluctuations of temperature, the gentle arrival of springtime rain, and the slow turn of centuries are all held in safe keeping within the cellular walls of the wood. As the evening deepens and stillness settles softly over the world around us, we can take comfort in knowing that these silent recorders continue their patient work, calmly measuring the grand, unbroken flow of time in peaceful, concentric circles. Imagine a quiet wetland where time moves at the subtle pace of falling water droplets and decaying leaves. Deep beneath layers of cool, damp earth, ancient forests rest undisturbed by the passage of suns and seasons. In these dark, oxygen-poor sanctuaries, wood does not crumble into dust. Instead, it enters a state of peaceful suspension, safe from decay. Millennia slide by softly, like mist flowing through a valley, while the timber retains the quiet memory of the sunlight it once absorbed. To walk across such ground is to tread above a subterranean library, where every fallen trunk is an unopened volume waiting in silence. The trees that grew tens of thousands of years ago preserved their innermost secrets in the precise pattern of their annual growth. Concentric circle after concentric circle, holding fast to the rhythm of an earth long since transformed. In the stillness of these ancient bogs, the natural world built a resting place not only for the wood itself, but for the subtle environmental forces that swept across the globe, while those giants were still reaching toward the sky. Far across the southern waters, in the tranquil northern reaches of New Zealand, lies the wetland domain of Ngaha. Beneath the surface of these ancient peat bogs rest subfossil Kauri trees, preserved in immaculate stillness for dozens of millennia. When researchers gently uncover these massive, ancient trunks, they find within their dense grain continuous ring sequences spanning 1,500 years, a flawless annual record that captured a rare moment when the planet's magnetic poles temporarily drifted and weakened 41,000 years ago. As solar wind and cosmic radiation altered Earth's atmosphere during this magnetic excursion, the atmospheric carbon isotopes shifted softly, and the growing Kauri trees absorbed these cosmic signals day by day, storing the evidence inside their ring structures. Each narrow circle of wood became a quiet witness to an event that unfolded far above the canopy in the distant upper atmosphere. The trees did not hurry their growth, nor did they alter their quiet cadence. They simply drew nourishment from the ground and light from the heavens, inscribing the subtle shifts of the cosmos into their silent heartwood. There is a profound comfort in knowing that such vast planetary stories are held so gently within the silent grain of wood. A tree growing 40,000 years ago knew nothing of the magnetosphere or solar winds. Yet, in its steady, quiet process of adding layer upon upon layer of growth each spring and summer. It created an enduring mirror of the world surrounding it. As night falls softly around us, these ancient Kauri logs remind us of how gracefully time preserves what truly matters. Long after the storm winds of those ancient centuries grew still, the timber remains nestled in cool, dark peat, sleeping through epoch after epoch, while retaining every line of its quiet history. To contemplate dendrochronology in such places is to enter a restful sanctuary where centuries shrink into subtle lines, and the deep past breathes out a gentle, reassuring silence. Under the peaceful sky, the ring sequences rest undisturbed in the earth, teaching us to appreciate the steady, silent rhythm that links our fleeting present to the endless depth of ancient time. Imagine standing within a quiet, ancient forest where centuries unfold with the silent rhythm of the seasons. Beneath the canopy, old trees quietly draw water from the earth and reach toward the light, laying down one thin layer of wood every year like pages in a living journal. Each ring tells a quiet story of gentle spring rains, warm summer suns, and the slow rest of autumn. Through centuries of weather, the trees carry the record of their surroundings in perfect stillness. The wood retains not only the memory of moisture and drought, but also subtle echoes from far beyond our world. Atmospheric currents drift overhead in soft, steady pulses, carrying subtle chemical signatures that are absorbed into the sap and bound forever within the heartwood. To walk among these ancient sentinels is to walk through a library of living memory, where time is preserved with steady, patient grace. As the forest breathes, the rings form silently in the dark core of every trunk, capturing moments both quiet and cosmic, waiting in the stillness to be read. High above the atmosphere, far beyond the reach of the highest leaves, space occasionally leaves its subtle mark upon our world. In the year 774, an intense burst of cosmic radiation swept across the planet, producing a dramatic spike of radiocarbon 14 in tree rings all across the globe, and giving scientists an exact single-year benchmark to calibrate ancient wooden artifacts. Whether in an old cedar growing on a distant mountainside or an oak lining a river valley, that single year's ring absorbed the elevated radiocarbon, marking the wood with a distinct, indelible signature. At the time, the world below carried on unaware, as leaves turned to gold and dropped gently onto the forest floor, and the tree quietly sealed the extraordinary moment away into its growing grain. Decades and centuries passed as new rings wrapped around that luminous layer, protecting the ancient secret within layers of solid timber. Today, when researchers examine cross-sections of ancient wood under precise instruments, this global spike appears like a sudden, brilliant bookmark placed within the ledger of time. This extraordinary cosmic event created what scientists call a golden anchor, a fixed reference point that bridges isolated timelines across continents. every tree alive during that single year recorded the exact same spike. Historians and dendrochronologists can now cross-date timbers from ancient structures, shipwrecks, and sacred relics with absolute single-year accuracy. If a piece of timber contains that telltale pulse, its age can be determined down to the precise calendar year, aligning disconnected tree ring sequences that might otherwise float in uncertain chronology. There is a deep, reassuring comfort in realizing how the cosmos and the earth interacted so long ago, leaving a shared mark across every forest. It reminds us that time is carefully remembered by the quiet trunks around us, holding history safe within their rings. As night settles over the woods and the stars appear in the dark sky above, the trees remain steadfast in their long, silent sleep, keeping guard over centuries of starlight and rain, allowing our minds to rest deeply in their enduring peace. In the quiet expanse of northern boreal forests, time moves to the soft, steady rhythm of light and season. High along alpine timberlines and across the vast, rolling stretches of northern taiga, ancient larches, spruces, and pines stand as patient watchers beneath pale, lingering evening skies. Here, summer arrives with a gentle warmth, encouraging the cambium beneath the dark bark to awaken and begin its slow, annual creation of new living wood. Row by row, microscopic cells expand and divide in the quiet gloom of the tree's interior, forming pale, generous springwood designed to carry life-giving moisture upward toward needle-laden boughs, followed by denser, thicker-walled latewood as autumn approaches. For centuries, this predictable cycle has repeated in unbroken peace, creating the familiar pattern of concentric circles that mark each passing year like gentle pages in an unhurried ledger. Each ring represents a complete, quiet breath of the forest, a full summer of sunlight, a gentle autumn of settling sap, and a long winter of peaceful rest beneath a deep blanket of snow. To wander among these ancient trees in the twilight is to sense a profound and reassuring continuity, where every passing year leaves behind a humble, enduring signature carved softly into living wood. Yet within this steady, rhythmic growth, the wood occasionally retains the delicate memory of a sudden chill, preserving a quiet moment when the wider world shifted unexpectedly. Far beyond the mountain horizon, massive volcanic eruptions sometimes veil the planet's upper atmosphere in subtle plumes of fine dust, filtering the sun's golden rays and cooling the air across distant northern continents. When these invisible atmospheric shadows drift overhead during the peak of the growing season, a brief spell of frost can interrupt the delicate work of cell maturation. As the cold takes hold midsummer, fragile cell walls that were actively forming are paused before they can fully thicken and coat themselves in protective lignin. When scientists prepare paper-thin cross-sections of this wood and apply specialized histological stains, these fragile, underdeveloped cell layers absorb the dye differently than mature wood, revealing themselves under microscopic light as faint azure bands. In this way, trees in northern latitudes occasionally form delicate blue rings with unlignified cell walls, capturing precise calendar years when brief summer freezing occurred following distant volcanic dust clouds. These thin blue lines serve as immaculate temporal markers, bridging thousands of miles to link a quiet summer freeze in a secluded mountain valley with a distant volcanic event recorded precisely in time. As deep night settles across the northern woods, these microscopic markers remain safely encased within the dark heartwood, untroubled by the centuries that have come and gone since that cold summer afternoon. They require no special attention, existing simply as peaceful evidence of nature's capacity to absorb and preserve every subtle change in its environment. Standing beneath the wide, starry sky, one can feel the comforting stillness of a history written without sound or urgency. The mountain air grows cool and clear, carrying the faint scent of pine needles and damp earth, while the gentle canopy sways in the night wind. Every ring, whether wide with abundant sunshine or marked by a brief moment of summer frost, rests peacefully within the trunk, forming part of a continuous, silent song that anchors the forest to the earth. As the centuries drift quietly by, water and earth sometimes join in a rare, protective stillness, sheltering ancient wood from the slow decay of open air. In these dark, oxygen-poor depths, the cellular memory of old trees remains undisturbed, holding fast to the subtle rhythms of seasonal growth that nourished them long ago. Deep beneath the fertile soil of Saxony, early farming communities constructed enduring wooden structures that would one day reveal their secrets to modern science. Tree ring analysis of the timber lining of a Neolithic water well discovered near Alterbitz in central Germany showed that its split oak planks were cut with polished stone tools during the quiet winter of 5099 BC. The outermost growth ring on each plank lay completely formed and dormant, showing that the giant oak trees had entered their cold winter sleep just before human hands worked the timber. With careful precision, these ancient builders split the massive trunks and fitted them together, securing a reliable supply of fresh groundwater, while quietly locking a specific moment in prehistoric time into the wood itself. There is a profound tranquility in realizing how a single microscopic layer of wood cells can capture not merely an ancient era, but an exact time of year. Trees grow by expanding thin-walled, spacious earlywood cells during the vibrant surge of spring, followed by denser, darker latewood cells as summer wanes and autumn approaches. When a tree is harvested, this final frontier of cellular development is frozen in place forever, preserved like a delicate mark left on a quiet parchment. A similar stillness rests under the calm surface of alpine lakes, where timber foundations have slept undisturbed across thousands of years. Submerged beneath the quiet waters of Lake Constance, Preserved oak pile dwellings retained delicate cell boundaries that allowed scientists to pinpoint the exact autumn in 3909 BC, when Neolithic villagers harvested timber for their lakeside homes. As the lake waters sheltered the posts from oxygen and decay, the microscopic cell walls maintained their precise shapes, safeguarding the memory of that long-ago autumn harvest for centuries to come. To listen to the quiet story of these waterlogged timbers is to step softly across immense expanses of human experience. The early people who wielded ground stone axes in the winter forests of Central Europe, or set heavy oak pilings into the soft, muddy bed of Lake Constance, as autumn chill gathered over the quiet water, lived in close harmony with the natural cycles of the surrounding forest. The trees they harvested had grown slowly year after year, recording sunlit summers and frosty winters in concentric bands of heartwood, completely unaware of the distant future centuries that would pass. Today, when dendrochronologists view these ancient cell structures under the gentle light of a microscope, the immense distance of 5,000 or 6,000 years gently dissolves away into quiet understanding. The tranquil waters and oxygen-poor soils have acted as patient guardians, keeping safe a peaceful record of human lives intimately intertwined with the growth of trees. Resting beneath the quiet surface of time, these ancient growth rings remind us that the natural world holds onto its stories with remarkable patience, preserving the past until we learn to read its silent language. Across the low-lying wetlands of Somerset, England, where gentle mists drift softly across serene meadows and ancient peat bogs, time moves at a quiet, meditative pace. Long ago, vast primeval oak trees grew slowly in these rich, damp soils, reaching toward soft, overcast skies, while capturing the peaceful rhythm of each passing year in their dense wooden hearts. Every summer warmth and every autumn chill left a delicate, subtle signature within the growth rings, forming a hidden chronicle of rainfall and sunshine that slept undisturbed beneath the soil for thousands of years. As uncounted generations came and went, the fallen timber sank gently into the protective embrace of oxygen-starved peat, preserving the fine cellular structures of the ancient wood as if frozen in a timeless dream. In this tranquil, dark environment, the physical memories of forgotten forests were safely held, waiting for modern eyes to decode the quiet language embedded within each concentric circle of grain. Among these preserved treasures of the wetland landscape lies the Sweet Track, a remarkable elevated wooden causeway constructed by early communities to navigate the saturated marshland. To construct this long, narrow pathway, skilled builders selected robust oak trees, carefully splitting their sturdy trunks into long, straight planks to create a dry, safe crossing above the reed-filled water. When dendrochronologists later examined the precise ring patterns running through these ancient timbers, matching the unique sequences of wide and narrow growth against established master calendars. The trees revealed the extraordinary exactness of their silent record. In the misty marshlands of Somerset, England, tree ring analysis of the oak planks forming the sweet track established that Neolithic carpenters felled the timber during the quiet winter of 3807 BC or early spring of 3806 BC. This remarkable analysis allows us to look across nearly 6,000 years into a single, quiet season when the ancient oaks were still dormant, resting peacefully in their winter sleep before being shaped into a trackway that would endure through the ages. The knowledge that tree rings can pinpoint such a specific moment in remote antiquity brings a profound sense of stillness and wonder. The dormant oak trees felled just before the spring sap began to circulate through their branches offer a timeless reminder of the unhurried cycles that govern the living earth. As those early carpenters labored in the crisp, quiet air of early spring, shaping the heavy timber with polished stone axes, they created something that would outlast their own lives by millennia. Submerged in the cool, damp earth, the wood lay still and sheltered, keeping a steady, silent record while seasons turned, forests shifted, and human cultures evolved around them. To listen to the story of these ancient timbers is to settle into a deeper, slower measure of time. The rings of the sweet track do not speak of sudden changes, but of steady days, quiet rains, and the patient unfolding of forest life. As night settles around us, we draw comfort from this quiet continuity, knowing that history rests in soft, protective layers beneath the moss. The silent language of the oak trees invites us to let go of the day, to rest as peacefully as the wood preserved in the peat, and to drift into a quiet, undisturbed sleep. Along coastal margins, where freshwater streams meet the quiet rhythm of the sea, water and silt sometimes conspire to preserve what time would otherwise carry away. Deep within damp, airless peat and salt-washed sand, ancient timbers can rest unchanged for thousands of years, suspended in a slow and peaceful slumber. Oak wood, in particular, possesses a dense and resilient structure, its growth rings recording each summer's warm breath and each winter's resting phase with meticulous care. As an oak grows, its living cambium layer lays down tiny vascular vessels during the initial warmth of spring, forming wider, lighter bands of earlywood. As summer wanes into autumn, growth slows into narrower, darker latewood, sealing that year's memory beneath a quiet arch of bark. When such trees were felled long ago and submerged beneath coastal marshes, their outermost rings remained frozen at the precise moment their life paused. Shielded from oxygen, the wood waits in silence across centuries, keeping an unbroken diary of climate, season, and time, waiting for gentle tides to reveal its presence once more to the open sky. One of the most remarkable glimpses into this ancient world emerged from the shifting sands of Home Next the Sea in Norfolk. Beneath the rhythmic rise and fall of gray coastal waters, the retreat of the shore gradually uncovered a quiet ring of ancient timbers. When dendrochronologists carefully examined the microscopic cell structures preserved in the outermost growth rings of these timbers, paying close attention to the delicate layer of earlywood formed just beneath the bark, they uncovered a moment frozen in time with astonishing precision. Tree ring analysis of the prehistoric timber circle, known as Seehenge, exposed along the tide lines of Home Next the Sea in Norfolk, proved that its 55 split oak posts and central overturned tree trunk were cut during the early spring of 2049 BC. To uncover such a date is to touch the briefest heartbeat of a world long past. It tells us that on a calm spring morning more than 4,000 years ago, as the first buds were softening on British oaks and winter was yielding to mild light, people gathered in coastal woods to fell these grand trees. They cut them just as the spring sap began to circulate and placed them into the wet earth. Dendrochronology transforms what might seem like distant prehistory into a tangible, tender human moment. We can almost feel the chill of that distant spring air, hear the quiet echo of work along the shore, and realize that a single season 4,000 years ago left its indelible signature in thin cells of spring wood. As the night settles around us, the story of Seehenge offers a reassuring quiet. It reminds us that time is not lost to the deep past, but softly stored in natural vessels all around us, in the heartwood of ancient trees, in wet coastal mud, and in the orderly sequences of tree rings that patiently await discovery. The posts of Home Next the Sea rest now in calm preservation, their ancient secret brought into gentle focus by the silent language of wood, inviting our minds to rest in the slow, enduring rhythm of the natural world. As we journey deeper into the gentle story of tree rings, we find that ancient wood carries a memory far more precise than written legend. Deep within the earth, or beneath the tranquil surfaces of quiet lakes, timber can rest undisturbed for thousands of years, holding fast to the subtle rhythm of seasons long gone. When archaeologists carefully examine these ancient trunks, the narrow and wide rings act like delicate pages of an undisturbed calendar. Each ring marks the passing of a single year, a breath of summer growth followed by the restful pause of winter. Through this patient study, known as dendrochronology, mysterious archaeological sites built by long-vanished societies are brought into sharp, quiet focus. What once seemed lost to the mists of prehistory becomes grounded in an exact timeline, allowing us to trace the quiet human hands that shaped these ancient places. High on the dry plateaus of central Turkey, beneath a massive earth mound, lies the ancient site of Gordian. Here, nestled in darkness away from the modern world, rests a subterranean burial chamber built from immense, carefully sculpted timber. Dendrochronological analysis of over 100 massive juniper logs forming the subterranean burial chamber at Gordian in central Turkey, revealed that the ancient wooden tomb was constructed from trees felled in 740 BC. The dense, fragrant heartwood of these grand junipers had absorbed centuries of sunshine and rain before ancient builders harvested them to protect their fallen ruler. To walk through the quiet memory of those rings is to step across thousands of autumns, feeling the exact moment when the axes fell, and the great logs were brought together under the earth to rest in timeless silence. A similar stillness lingers far to the north, among the misty marshes and lake shores of western Poland, at the fortified Iron Age settlement of Biskupin. An entire community once thrived on a wooden peninsula, shielded by great timber walls that eventually sank into dark, protective waters. The lack of oxygen in the waterlogged soil halted decay, preserving the rings in extraordinary detail for over 2 millennia. Dendrochronological sampling of the waterlogged oak timbers from the fortified Iron Age settlement of Biskupin in western Poland revealed that over 70% of its log ramparts were felled during the quiet winter of 738 to 737 BC, as winter settled over the landscape and sap stopped flowing. Community members labored together, harvesting the sturdy oaks to fortify their lakeside home. There's something deeply comforting about how tree rings link distant lands across shared decades of time. In both the sun-drenched hills of Anatolia and the cool wetlands of Poland, ancient people were felling massive trees within just a few years of one another, living out their lives under the same quiet skies. The wood they cut and placed into the earth became a vault of time, waiting patiently in the dark until modern hands could read their concentric lines. As night settles in and thoughts grow gentle, we can appreciate how these humble pieces of timber tether our world to a vast, peaceful timeline of nature and history, inviting us to rest in the calm continuity of the passing years. High in the remote reaches of the Altai Mountains, where the vast steppe gently slopes toward the heavens, ancient earthworks rest in peaceful solitude beneath a quiet sky. Within the high-altitude basin of the Pazyryk Valley, layers of frozen soil and ice have guarded a quiet history for thousands of winters, preserving deep beneath the surface the timbered burial chambers of an ancient nomadic culture. The fallen logs used to construct these subterranean mounds were harvested from dense, slow-growing Siberian larches of the surrounding subalpine forests. In this severe alpine climate, where summers are brief and winters stretch long across the plateau, every single passing year left its indelible signature upon the growing wood in fine, concentric circles. Preserved in the permafrost, these structural timbers remained remarkably unblemished by decay, holding their fibers in stillness while safeguarding an unwritten record of ancient sunlight, snowfall, and human reverence. to read this subterranean library, dendrochronologists extracted thin core samples from the larch beams, bringing their intricate ring sequences into the light of study. Each log carried a calendar written in wood, narrow, tightly spaced rings, marking years of bitter frost, and slightly wider bands reflecting rare seasons of warmth and nourishment. By measuring the relative thickness of hundreds of consecutive growth rings across numerous timber structures, researchers began assembling a continuous tapestry of environmental memory. The work required patient care, matching the sequence of thin and generous years from one trunk to another, until separate trees fused into an unbroken timeline. In doing so, the tree rings began to align like quiet notes in a long, soothing melody, bridging the vast gaps between isolated mounds scattered across the valley floor. This careful comparison allowed scientists to solve one of the great mysteries surrounding the Pazyryk burial mounds by cross-matching ring patterns in frozen Siberian larch logs from the high-altitude Pazyryk mounds in the Altai Mountains. Scientists determined that all 5 major royal structures were erected within a calm span of just 48 years. What had long been envisioned as a series of monuments built across centuries was instead revealed to be the creation of a concise era, unfolding in under 5 decades. One after another, each royal tomb was raised with deliberate care, its massive wooden walls assembled, while the memory of the prior generation's craftsmanship remained living and vibrant. The tree rings demonstrated that the builders returned to the exact same mountain groves, selecting mature larches that had shared the same centuries of mountain storms and quiet summer sun. There is a soothing comfort in realizing how decades lost to antiquity can be anchored so precisely through the silent witness of wood. The Siberian larches did not merely construct places of rest for ancient leaders. They carried the heartbeat of their forest forward into the deep stillness of the frozen earth. As night settles over the quiet mountains and the stars trace their familiar courses overhead, the story of the Pazyryk larches reminds us of nature's quiet capacity to hold time gently without sound or struggle. In the stillness of these wooden rings, the distant past yields its secrets not with clamor, but with a serene and resting silence that invites our own thoughts to settle, bringing peace, warmth, and easy rest to the listening mind. In the soft, muted depths of ancient riverbeds, time moves with a quiet, measured patience. Beneath thick layers of fine silt and gentle, rolling currents, submerged timbers rest in cold shadow, protected from the decaying effects of air by the very waters that once nourished them in life. For centuries, these ancient wooden foundation posts have remained hidden beneath steady river flows, preserving the intricate tapestry of their growth rings in extraordinary detail. When timber is kept continuously submerged in fresh water, the absence of oxygen creates a natural sanctuary where decay slows to a near complete halt. Within these dark, waterlogged logs, each concentric ring remains perfectly locked in place, holding the atmospheric memories of forgotten summers, quiet autumns, and long past springs. As the river glides softly overhead day after day, carrying the drifting leaves of modern seasons, these ancient trunks continue to safeguard their silent record, waiting patiently in the cool gloom for the moment when their inner patterns might be gently uncovered, measured, and understood by patient minds. Among the most remarkable examples of this underwater preservation lies along the peaceful banks of the Moselle River in Trier, where Roman engineers once anchored massive wooden pilings deep into the riverbed to support a magnificent stone bridge structure. When modern researchers carefully extracted core samples from these deep riverbed supports, the tight, rhythmic spacing of the oak rings began to reveal an astonishingly precise historical story. Dendrochronological sampling of the submerged oak foundation posts of the Roman bridge over the Moselle River in Trier revealed that the heavy timbers were felled during the winter seasons between 142 and 150 AD because trees pause their active growth during the cold winter months, leaving the outer boundary of their final growth ring complete and undisturbed. Dendrochronologists could determine not only the exact calendar years the trees were cut, but the precise dormant season in which Roman woodsmen felled them. The vivid image of ancient laborers working in the crisp winter air of the 2nd century, transporting heavy oak trunks through frosty forests, emerges with peaceful clarity through the quiet alignment of microscopic wood cells. There is a profound, comforting stillness in knowing that such fleeting human moments remain preserved within the heartwood of ancient trees. Those oak trees had grown slowly across decades of warm sunlight and soft rainfall in surrounding forests, completely unaware that their sturdy trunks would one day cradle a great bridge spanning a bustling river. Today, as the Moselle River glides peacefully past the historic city of Trier, those submerged posts continue their silent watch, holding the memory of distant winters safe beneath the quiet water. Dendrochronology does not disrupt this resting archive. Rather, it simply listens to the quiet story already written in the grain, translating the slow rhythm of growth and dormancy into a tranquil chronicle of human history. As night settles softly over the surrounding river valley, the ancient timbers remain cradled in the dark silt, timeless sentinels resting in calm harmony with the gentle passage of centuries. The river continues its soft, rhythmic song, whispering past the submerged wood just as it has for thousands of years. Within the stillness of the waterlogged oak, every ring slumbers peacefully, bridging the distant past with the quiet present, inviting our minds to rest in the slow, eternal flow of time. In the quiet, oxygen-poor depths of northern wetlands, time seems to drift into a soft, endless slumber, allowing fallen timber to rest undisturbed beneath thick cushions of dark moss and still, tannin-stained water. These damp, secluded sanctuaries act as gentle archives of the earth, preserving the fine cellular structures of trees that grew long ago and holding their quiet experiences intact for modern eyes to discover. It is within such moisture-rich soils that ancient wood is shielded from decay, locking away the exact environmental conditions of distant centuries. Tree ring analysis of the slender oak hull planks of the Nydam boat, excavated from the peat bog of Nydam Moss in southern Jutland, established that the ancient vessel's timber was harvested between 310 and 320 AD, each narrow line etched into those long, curved planks whispers of forgotten sunlit summers and cool northern autumns during late antiquity, bridging the vast span of centuries between an ancient shipbuilder's steady craft and our own resting thoughts tonight. When reflecting on such patient craftsmanship, we share a quiet bond across time, as scientists gently examine the subtle grain of these submerged hull timbers. The distant past feels close, calm, and reassuring, cradled safely within the slow, protective breath of the earth. Further west, across mist-shrouded valleys and quiet green hills, a similar preservation has unfolded over centuries of quiet stillness. Preserved within dark peat bogs across Ireland, ancient subfossil oaks retain paper-thin rings from 536 AD, recording a silent, sunless decade of summer chill triggered by a planet-spanning atmospheric dust cloud. Beneath the cool, damp layers of peat, these dark, ancient trunks hold the precise memory of a dim and veiled sky, where annual growth slowed to a gentle crawl, and the great forest trees drew inward to endure the long season of shadow. During those subdued years, the sun's light was filtered by high, drifting veils of dust, casting a cool dusk across the lands below. The saplings and ancient trees alike grew with slow, deliberate restraint, conserving their vitality until the heavens cleared once more. The rings from those shaded years compress closely together under microscopic inspection, delicate as pages in a long-closed book, documenting how the natural world patiently waited out an era of chill before full sunlight eventually returned to the canopy above. To observe these microhistorical layers is to listen to the planet's own calm, steady heartbeat, recorded line by line in fine, sequential bands of earlywood and latewood. The peat bogs do not merely bury the past, they protect it with a deep, enduring stillness, shielding each fragile ring from the erosion of open air and weather. In every subfossil log and ancient ship plank, we find quiet proof that even the most shadowed decades eventually give way to restoration, warmth, and renewed vigor. The trees endure through cold and darkness, silently recording their quiet resilience within their woody cores. As the mind settles into the rhythmic story of these ancient timbers, there is a deep and comforting peace in knowing how completely the earth remembers its history, keeping safe every cold morning and every golden afternoon within the silent, enduring sanctuary of oak. In the quiet of the evening, we too can rest, trusting the gentle cycles that return the morning light. In the quiet, mist-shrouded mountain valleys of ancient Japan, tall cypresses stood silently through decades of changing seasons, drinking in the cool spring rains and stretching toward the soft, filtered sunlight of forgotten summers. With each passing year, as the surrounding forest breathed in a slow and peaceful rhythm, these trees added a faint, delicate ring of heartwood beneath their protective bark, a tiny, permanent record of climate, patience, and time, long after those early forest shadows had faded into history. The wisdom hidden within those narrow, overlapping concentric circles would travel down through the generations, waiting for patient eyes to decipher their soft, silent code. In traditional Japanese architecture, wood was revered not merely as a structural material, but as a living, sacred presence endowed with quiet grace and enduring spirit. Master carpenters carefully sought out these dense, slow-grown cypresses for sacred buildings intended to shelter generations across centuries. The harvested timber carried within its tight, even grain the tranquil memory of calm centuries, holding the gentle cadence of mountain breezes, morning mists, and winter snowfalls preserved deep within its quiet core. Among the world's most enduring wooden structures stands the ancient temple complex of Horyuji in Nara, where evening twilight settles softly over weathered eaves and graceful, sweeping tiled roofs. At the very center of its iconic 5-story pagoda rises the massive central pillar, known as the Shinbashira, a solitary, majestic column of timber designed to give the tall tower balance, flexibility, and silent resilience against the subtle shifts of the earth. For generations, the precise age and true origin of this great wooden spine remained wrapped in sacred tradition and quiet wonder. By matching the concentric growth lines of slow-grown Japanese cypress, researchers confirmed that the massive central pillar supporting the 5-story pagoda at Horyuji in Nara was harvested in 594 AD. This gentle discovery linked the physical timber directly to the late 6th century, revealing that the inner heart of the pagoda was formed during an era when temple architecture was first taking root in the tranquil landscape of ancient Nara. The narrow, rhythmic growth rings offered a clear, unbroken window into the past, telling of temperate springs and long, undisturbed growing seasons that unfolded centuries before the foundation stones were laid. To trace the fine, repeating lines of such ancient timber is to listen to a soft lullaby sung across the quiet expanse of centuries. Each thin ring acts as a gentle bookmark in time, preserving the tranquil memory of a single year's warm sunlight, gentle rainfall, and quiet winter slumber. As the great pagoda has stood peacefully through calm nights and quiet dawns for over 1,400 years, its central pillar continues to hold the essence of the ancient forest within its heart, resting silently beneath the gentle, unbroken weight of passing time. There is a deep and comforting stillness in knowing that something crafted from a living tree can shelter the human spirit with such steady, unassuming strength. As darkness settles and the world around us slows to a quiet rest, the silent language of tree rings reminds us of the calm, unhurried pace of nature, inviting us to let go of the day and drift into sleep as peacefully as the ancient wood that quietly supports the sky. As we drift deeper into the tranquility of the night, it is soothing to consider how wood preserved beneath the quiet earth retains a precise, untarnished calendar of the exact years it drew life from the soil. In sheltered earth mounds, peat moss, and waterlogged clay, the usual processes of decay are gently stayed, holding the delicate cellular structure of ancient timbers in a state of restful suspension. For centuries, these buried logs remain undisturbed in the cool darkness, their annual growth rings preserving a silent record of gentle rains and warm suns long forgotten. When such timbers are eventually brought back into the light, they offer dendrochronologists a rare opportunity to read the subtle variations of climate that shaped the forest long ago, translating the soft whispers of ancient tree growth into remarkably precise historical moments. One of the most extraordinary examples of this quiet, subterranean clockwork can be found near the peaceful fjord shores of Scandinavia. Within a burial mound in Vestfold, a magnificent oak vessel was laid to rest beneath heavy layers of turf and moist clay, designed to remain protected from the atmosphere through the long passage of centuries. Deep within the structure of the vessel, ancient craftspeople constructed a subterranean burial chamber from massive, split logs of native oak, creating a protected sanctuary where wood fibers stayed remarkably intact. When modern researchers extracted thin core samples from these split logs, they compared the sequence of wide and narrow rings against regional master chronologies built from ancient living trees and historic buildings. Dendrochronological analysis of the split oak logs forming the subterranean burial chamber of the Oseberg Viking ship in Vestfold, Norway, proved that the timber was cut during the quiet summer of 834 AD. To learn that a specific oak tree ceased its upward growth during a single, peaceful summer so distant brings a comforting sense of connection across time. The annual rings do not merely reveal the precise year of felling. The microscopic structure of their outermost boundary discloses the very season in which the timber was harvested. Within the Oseberg chamber logs, the outermost ring of earlywood was fully formed, while the darker, denser latewood had only just begun to develop beneath the bark. This subtle cellular feature tells us that the foresters felled the oaks in the height of the warm season, while sunlight still filtered through a canopy of green leaves. And before the cool approach of autumn prompted the tree to prepare for winter dormancy. In the stillness of the subterranean earth, those split oak rings held their secret for more than 1100 years, completely untouched by the changing weather of the world above. They remind us that human history is quietly interwoven with the natural rhythms of the forest, recorded cell by cell in the enduring heartwood of ancient trees. As the evening softly fades and rest settles around us, we can imagine those ancient oaks standing quietly on a sunlit hillside in 834 AD, their rings gathering the quiet energy of summer before gently transitioning into an eternal rest beneath the quiet earth. In the quiet expanse of the high desert, where night settles gently over red stone mesas and starlight paints the sandstone canyon walls in soft silver hues, there lies a profound and timeless stillness. For many centuries, the dry air of the American Southwest has preserved not only the soaring masonry of ancient dwellings, but also the wooden heartwood embedded within their protective stone walls. Here, in the quiet alcoves of Chaco Canyon, the rings of ancient trees whisper secrets of an era long past, recording moments when human communities and surrounding forests were deeply entwined. As the evening breeze passes softly through the stone doorways, one can almost sense the steady, patient footsteps of those who walked these lands so long ago. Each timber held within the ruins is a calendar crafted from cellulose, storing years of rainfall, seasonal sunlight, and the peaceful passage of decades in its fine, concentric boundaries. When modern researchers turned their eyes to these quiet structural beams, they found a story far broader than simple climate records, a story of human endurance, profound purpose, and soft, measured effort across vast distances under the open sky. By carefully sampling and cross-dating the growth patterns preserved inside the ancient structures, scientists began to trace the exact geographic origins of each weathered log. Through the meticulous dendrochronological matching of over 240,000 timber beams, it was revealed that ancestral Pueblones between 850 and 1140 AD carried massive Douglas firs and mountain pines by hand across 75 kilometers of desert from the Chuska and Zuni ranges to construct the great houses of Chaco Canyon. Without draft animals or wheeled vehicles, the builders traversed the dusty trails in rhythmic harmony, bearing the heavy trunks across dry valleys, wind-carved canyons, and sun-warmed ridges. These great trees had not grown in the arid canyon floor. They had thrived on the cooler, mist-shrouded slopes of distant mountain ranges, absorbing the rain of high elevations before being selected with quiet reverence and care. Each log was smoothed, stripped of bark, and lifted into place to form the resilient ceilings, floors, and lintels of monumental architecture that still stands today, bathed in the gentle glow of dusk. To touch the surface of one of these weathered beams today is to connect directly with a moment frozen in wood grain and time. The narrow rings reflect long years of meager rainfall, while wider bands celebrate gentle seasons of abundant moisture, preserving the breadth of high forests nearly 1,000 years ago. In the cool darkness of the canyon floor, these trees found a second life, sheltering families and sacred gatherings, while silently carrying the imprint of their native mountains into the desert heartland. Every log preserved both the climate of its mountain home and the steady, collective intention of the hands that carried it across the vast desert plain. As you rest tonight, let your mind wander peacefully along those quiet mountain paths, through the softly scented pine groves, across the cool highlands, and down into the calm, shadowed canyon below. The ancient wood remains patient and motionless, resting peacefully within the stone walls, keeping watch over the desert, while stars glide slowly across the silent night sky. In the deep, cool dampness of ancient soil, wood possesses a remarkable capacity to hold memory, preserving the subtle whispers of long-forgotten seasons within its dense cellular structure. Far to the east, along the tranquil banks of the Volkhov River in the historic city of Veliki Novgorod, generations of medieval townspeople paved their thoroughfares with sturdy wooden planks, regularly laying fresh pine logs directly over older, decaying streets as the centuries slowly drifted by. Deep within the waterlogged earth, protected from air and decay, these wooden roads rested undisturbed, keeping a peaceful and precise archive of the passing years. By retrieving these subterranean timbers and carefully aligning their nested patterns of narrow and wide rings, dendrochronologists cross-matched ring patterns from 28 superimposed layers of pine street logs, establishing a continuous year-by-year record of urban timber construction spanning from 953 to 1462 AD. Each silent, saturated layer tells a gentle story of medieval community life, reflecting the steady rise and fall of spring rainfall and summer sunshine across the surrounding Russian forests. As one timber path settled softly beneath the next, the city gradually rose, resting upon a serene foundation of preserved tree rings that bridge more than 5 centuries of history. Across the vast, quiet expanse of the North Atlantic, on the remote and misty shores of Newfoundland, another silent archive lay hidden within the structural remnants of an ancient Norse settlement. At Elance, Ox Meadows, wild fir trees once stood near the edge of the Northern Ocean, quietly absorbing the atmosphere into their developing sapwood season after season. Among these subtle chemical traces was a rare signature left by the cosmos itself. When a powerful surge of solar particles touched the upper atmosphere in the late 10th century and was naturally incorporated into the wood of living trees all across the globe. By combining traditional ring counting with high-precision isotope analysis, dendrochronologists pinpointed a global solar storm radiocarbon spike from 993 AD. Inside, preserved fir logs at Elance Ox Meadows in Newfoundland, proving Norse builders felled the timber during the quiet autumn of 1021 AD. This extraordinary alignment of cosmic phenomena and forest growth allows us to perceive a specific autumn afternoon more than 1,000 years ago, when iron blades met damp fir bark, leaving behind an exact timestamp preserved in the silent wood. There is a profound stillness in recognizing how these tiny rings preserve both human endeavors and heavenly rhythms with equal clarity. Whether in the layered pine thoroughfares of Novgorod or the weathered fir structures along the coast of Newfoundland, tree rings act as patient, impartial witnesses to the unfolding of time. They bridge the gap between small, routine human actions, such as laying a street log or shaping a wooden shelter, and the vast, rhythmic cycles of solar energy. As we listen to the story told by these ancient growth rings, the distant past feels near and peaceful, held securely within concentric circles of pine and fir, guiding the mind toward a quiet and resting state. There is a gentle rhythm to the memory of wood, an enduring calm held within the tight, repeating circles of every trunk that ever stretched toward the sun. Long after a tree has fallen and its leaves have turned to soft soil, its growth rings remain like faint lines of script in a closed book, preserving a silent, unhurried chronicle of sunlit summers, frost-rimed winters, and the gentle moisture of long-forgotten rains. For scientists who listen to this quiet language, a single slice of timber is far more than a simple fragment of structural history. It is a vivid map of time and geography, because trees in a given region experience the same overarching weather patterns, the same wet springs, warm midsummers, and dry autumns. Their annual growth rings form a distinct regional signature shared by all neighboring timber. By carefully measuring and matching these subtle variations in ring width against long-established master chronologies, dendrochronologists can trace the story of ancient wood across vast distances, discovering not only the precise period during which a tree flourished, but also the specific countryside where its roots once drew nourishment from the earth. This soft art of reading the wood becomes especially moving when applied to ancient ships that rested for centuries beneath murky, protective waters. Deep within the silt and cool mud of estuaries and sheltered bays, submerged timbers lie suspended in time, shielded from oxygen and rot, while preserving their microscopic cellular patterns with remarkable clarity. When marine archaeologists carefully retrieve these ancient hulls, dendrochronologists examine the grain with patience, looking for the telltale sequence of wide and narrow rings that reveal when the tree was felled. A striking demonstration of this historical precision occurred through the study of seafaring vessels recovered from Scandinavia. Analysis of the slender oak hull planks of the Roskilde II longship, excavated from Denmark's Roskilde Fjord, showed that the wood came from trees grown near Dublin and harvested in the spring of 1042 AD. To examine those planks today is to catch a peaceful glimpse of a forgotten spring nearly 1,000 years ago, when craftsmen stepped into the green woods near Dublin Bay to select towering oaks, just as the early seasonal sap began to rise through the bark. The fact that a formidable longship resting in a Danish fjord was crafted from oak trees grown across the sea in Ireland illuminates the extensive, quiet journeys of the early medieval world. Each narrow ring embedded in those slender planks holds the weather of 11th century Leinster, capturing the soft rains of Irish springs and transporting that environmental record across turbulent waters to be buried at last in Scandinavian mud. Such discoveries demonstrate how tree ring science links natural history with human endeavors, turning old timber into a bridge of time where human craft and natural growth intertwine. Every wooden artifact, from the massive timber frames of historic barns to the delicate staves of ancient trading vessels, carries this quiet capacity for story. As the evening closes in, one can imagine those ancient oak groves swaying gently under a pale Irish sky, their steady annual rings holding the peace of distant centuries, resting undisturbed in the silent grain. High above the quiet stone vaults of historical monuments, hidden away from the bustling streets below, rest the silent frameworks of ancient timber. For centuries, these massive wooden beams have rested in shadows, carrying the weight of roof lines and echoing the soft murmurs of time, when master builders of the Middle Ages sought to create grand spaces that could endure across generations. They turned to the surrounding old-growth forests, selecting mature oaks that had stood silently through centuries of changing weather. In the darkness of these high attics, protected from the elements, the wood retained the precise record of its living days, each ring maintaining the exact spacing dictated by sunlight, rainfall, and summer warmth long ago. To step into these grand wooden lofts is to enter a peaceful sanctuary where the quiet growth of ancient trees was carefully gathered and preserved. The air carries a subtle scent of dry aged wood, resin, and deep stillness, holding memories of rainstorms that fell hundreds of years before any living person was born. As light filters softly through narrow slits in the masonry, one can trace the circular patterns along the cross sections of these heavy beams, realizing that every curve represents a single season of patient endurance in a long-vanished forest. Among all the magnificent wooden structures crafted during the medieval era, few carry as rich a story as the historic cathedrals of Western Europe. Researchers and tree ring scientists, working with delicate sampling techniques, have examined these massive roof trusses to understand when the living forests were harvested. Dendrochronological sampling of the vast medieval oak framework above the choir of Notre Dame de Paris showed that its giant timbers were felled during the quiet years between 1160 and 1170 AD. These precise dates reveal how foresters and carpenters walked among the ancient groves during the 12th century, selecting sturdy trees that had germinated hundreds of years earlier during another epoch entirely. Each beam brought up into the lofty upper reaches of the choir carried within its heart the memory of spring rains and quiet autumn winds from a distant age. As craftsmen carved and joined these dense oak trunks into intricate lattice frameworks, they unknowingly locked away an infallible calendar. The rings preserved the steady rhythm of medieval climate, recording years of abundant moisture alongside seasons of gentle drought, forming a continuous stream of environmental history preserved above the sacred stone arches. Contemplating these ancient oak beams brings a profound sense of calm, reminding us that human history and natural history are softly interwoven. The very same trees that once swayed gently under temperate skies became the silent guardians of human craftsmanship, bridging the gap between centuries with quiet grace. When we listen closely to the language of dendrochronology, we are reminded of how patient and measured the natural world remains. Just as each tree added a single concentric ring season after season without haste, time moves onward with a restful and steady cadence. The ancient timbers continue to hold their quiet secrets high above the world, whispering of peaceful forests, gentle sunlit mornings, and the enduring harmony between the living earth and the passages of time. As night settles warmly around us, we can rest deeply in the quiet assurance that the universe moves at its own gentle pace, anchored by the slow, peaceful growth of the trees. Across the quiet passage of centuries, trees that once stood rooted deep within ancient, solitary woodlands found a second life upon moving waters, carrying the silent ledger of their forest growth across rivers, estuaries, and open seas. When these great wooden vessels eventually settled into soft riverbeds and dark marine silt, the cool, airless mud protected their oak fibers in a state of peaceful, suspended rest within the curved hull of a sunken ship, shielded from the gentle wear of air, light, and wave motion. The concentric growth rings remained locked in time, waiting patiently for modern hands to decode their quiet memories. Through the refined science of dendrochronology, scholars can align the microscopic patterns of earlywood and latewood from these submerged timbers with long-established regional master chronologies. This delicate work allows researchers to reach back across hundreds of years and determine not only the century, but often the very season an ancient forest gave up its gifts. The water, far from destroying history, cradled it safely in the dark sediment, preserving the calm, steady heartbeat of ancient trees through ages of quiet silence. In the quiet depths of northern European waterways, such submerged memories have yielded remarkable clarity for marine archaeologists studying ancient navigation. dendrochronological sampling of the thick oak hull planks of the Bremen cog, retrieved from the riverbed of the Weser in 1962, revealed that its timbers were harvested in the northern German forests during the quiet winter of 1378. During that long-ago season of frost, when snow blanketed the forest floor and the sap rested deep within the roots, local craftsmen felled the majestic oaks while they lay dormant in their winter sleep. The final, narrow layer of cell structure beneath the bark recorded that season of cold stillness, marking the exact boundary of each tree's living years before shipwrights shaped the wood into a heavy, reliable vessel for trade. For nearly 6 centuries, as the river Weser drifted softly above, the oak planks retained the precise environmental memory of that late 14th century forest, resting undisturbed until quiet scientific investigation unlocked their hidden date. A matching story of preserved time rests within the silt of the English coastline, where the remnants of another historic vessel lay cradled beneath the Solent. Dendrochronological sampling of the thick oak hull frames of the Tudor warship Mary Rose showed that its timbers were harvested from mature trees in Hampshire's New Forest during the quiet winter between 1509 and early spring of 1510. These great oaks had matured over generations under the gentle rains and temperate skies of southern England, laying down fine, rhythmic rings year after quiet year. When the woodsmen came with axes in the dead of winter, the trees carried inside their heartwood a continuous record of weather, sunlight, and seasonal rhythm, spanning more than a century of woodland growth. When dendrochronologists examine the dense, preserved grain of these ship frames today, they perceive far more than ship architecture. They trace a peaceful continuum connecting ancient soil, forest canopy, shipwright craft, and the silent, protective ocean floor. In these submerged timbers, the ancient trees continue their quiet narrative, whispering stories of winter rest and timeless harmony across the passing centuries. In the quiet expanse of North American forests, ancient post oaks upon rocky ridges and solitary Douglas firs along high mountain slopes have stood as silent, watchful observers across centuries of shifting skies. Year after year, as spring light awakens the canopy and autumn chill gently pauses the flow of sap, these enduring trees lay down delicate concentric rings of wood, inscribing a faint, physical journal of every summer shower and every lingering dry spell. To wander beneath their shadowy branches is to walk among living libraries, where the subtle interplay of atmosphere and moisture is preserved within thin bands of springwood and latewood. Long after the winds of a particular century have settled and the rain clouds have faded into soft memory, the wooden tissues retain the exact rhythm of rainfall, holding it securely within dark, dense heartwood. Dendrochronologists enter these ancient groves with patient reverence, sampling thin wooden cores without harming the living trunks, seeking only to listen to the soft, rhythmic whispers of timber that have remained undisturbed for hundreds of years. Reading these biological archives requires an extraordinary degree of stillness, as scientists carefully measure ring widths under precise microscopic lenses, comparing pattern after pattern across vast geography. When a dry year settles over a landscape, trees across whole regions respond in unison, producing narrow, delicate rings that mirror one another in precise structural harmony. By cross-matching microring widths from thousands of ancient post oaks and Douglas firs, climate scientists mapped the late 16th century megadrought, revealing a quiet 26-year period of severe dryness across North America from 1565 to 1591 AD. Across those long decades, the sky remained mostly pale and empty, yet the trees adapted, growing only a hair's breadth each season, waiting out the prolonged warmth with steady, rooted calm. The sheer geographic scale of this ancient drought, spanning coast to coast and continent-wide, was brought into focus because thousands of individual wood samples were meticulously lined up, ring by ring, until their shared story of silent endurance became undeniable. There is a deep, comforting quiet in knowing that the forest weathered such a long, dry silence and peacefully survived. Though year after year brought only light morning dew and brief, scattered showers, the tree roots reached deeper into the cool earth, drawing upon hidden subterranean reserves and conserving every precious drop of life. The microrings from those 26 years remain today as delicate, closely spaced lines wrapped near the inner heart of these old trees, a soft, enduring testament to resilience in the face of environmental scarcity. When the generous rains finally returned in the closing years of the 16th century, the growth rings widened once more, resuming their slow, gentle expansion into the future. Today, as evening settles gently over the woodlands and the night breeze whispers softly through the high needles and leaves, those ancient post oaks and Douglas firs still stand, holding their centuries-old memories in quiet repose, offering us a soothing reminder of nature's quiet patience and timeless capacity to endure through long seasons of stillness. In the quiet, cool forests that stretched along the Baltic coast centuries ago, oak trees grew with a deliberate, patient rhythm. Season after season, through gentle spring rains and long winters, their trunks expanded by mere fractions of a millimeter, forming thin, tight rings of dense heartwood. This unhurried pace of development bestowed upon the timber an exceptional dimensional stability and uniform grain, ideal for enduring the passage of time without warping. When the trees were harvested and split into smooth boards, the wood began a peaceful journey, floating down tranquil waterways and sailing along historic trade routes. These planks traveled from Baltic shipping hubs to timber merchants across Western Europe, carrying within their silent fibers the subtle climate memory of northern summers. Eventually, these wooden boards found their place in the quiet studios of master artisans who sought durable surfaces for their paints, unaware that a detailed, intricate chronicle of natural history remained carefully preserved beneath their smoothly prepared ground layers. In the sunlit ateliers of 17th century Holland, artists worked amidst the calm, soft light filtering through tall leaded window panes, laying down delicate glazes of pigment. Dendrochronologists studying Dutch Golden Age art discovered that painters like Rembrandt van Rijn worked on wood panels split from slow-growing Baltic oaks exported through Gdansk, enabling modern researchers to match separate museum canvases back to the exact same tree trunk. A quiet portrait hanging in an art gallery in Amsterdam might share its deep physical origins with a landscape resting gently in a museum in London or New York, both painted upon sibling planks severed from the very same noble tree. By carefully measuring the minute patterns of wide and narrow rings visible along the trimmed edges of these panels, researchers can trace the wood back to the specific forest and decade of its growth, reconstructing the forgotten physical lineage of famous artworks that were separated centuries ago. This scientific revelation offers a window into the material world of historic art, revealing that every panel was once part of a living ecosystem. The wood was not merely a passive surface, but a historical witness to the changing climate of Northern Europe. The slow growth of Baltic oaks, shaped by cold winters and brief summers, created dense growth rings that stored precise environmental data. When painters selected these boards for their fine texture, they inadvertently preserved a continuous environmental record spanning centuries. Today, as conservators and specialists examine these wooden backs with high-resolution imaging, the hidden concentric patterns emerge like quiet signatures, uniting botany, trade history, and fine art into a single harmonious tapestry of natural and human effort. As night deepens and the world grows still, contemplating these quiet connections brings a serene sense of calm and continuity. The rings enclosed within an antique panel painting continue their silent work, linking distant centuries, far-off places, and human lives through their subtle, unspoken language. Long after the painter's brush fell still, the ancient oak continues to speak of quiet years spent beneath cool northern skies. In this peaceful intersection of human artistry and the slow pulse of nature, the mind finds a restful space to linger, listening to the gentle, soothing cadence of tree rings that hold the quiet memory of sun, rain, and timeless endurance. In the quiet realm where human craft and nature gently intersect, the hidden archives of the forest extend far beyond the soil of their origin. Long after a tree has yielded its trunk to human hands, the subtle rhythm of its growth remains preserved within the fine grain, carrying an unyielding testimony of distant sunlight, lingering frosts, and forgotten rains, when master artisans fashioned instruments in centuries past. they unknowingly transformed ancient meteorological records into soundboards capable of producing music. The timber chosen for such delicate instruments held a quiet legacy, a sequence of concentric lines marking every turn of the stars above peaceful alpine valleys. As the decades passed, and these instruments rested softly in velvet cases or echoed through quiet rooms, the wood retained its inner memory, awaiting a time when modern scholars might decipher the silent language etched within its heart. High in the Italian Alps lies the Pinveggio forest, where red spruce trees grew slowly across centuries of mountain winds and long, solitary winters. During the late 17th and early 18th centuries, Europe experienced a prolonged period of low solar activity, known as the Maunder Minimum, marked by unusually cool summers and extended, dormant winters. In this prolonged chill, the spruce trees expanded with remarkable restraint, adding thin, exceptionally consistent layers of dense latewood with each passing year. These tiny, uniform increments created a balanced cellular structure throughout the timber, giving the wood a rare acoustic clarity and delicate lightness. The calm, steady rhythm of those cold years imparted to the wood a structural perfection, as though the alpine air itself had instructed the trees to grow with patience and quiet symmetry. This extraordinary harmony between climate and craft became fully evident when researchers sought to resolve a lingering mystery regarding one of the world's most celebrated instruments. Dendrochronologists confirmed the origin of Antonio Stradivari's 1716 Messiah violin by matching its spruce rings from the Pinveggio forest to wood grown during the quiet cold of the Maunder Minimum. By measuring the minute variations between growth rings across the instrument's face, scientists unlocked a timeline matching reference chronologies from living alpine trees and historical timber. The analysis demonstrated that the violins would have absorbed the tranquil chill of those specific decades before being chosen by Stradivari's observant hands, bridging the quiet life of an alpine forest with the enduring legacy of classical luthiery. To trace such connections is to realize how deeply human art is woven into the silent cadence of the natural world. A violin is not merely an assemblage of carved wood, but a physical container of ancient weather, preserving the exact temperature of long-forgotten summers within its acoustic frame. As night settles softly and the world grows still, there is comfort in knowing that every ring tells a story of survival, restraint, and quiet beauty. The cold mountain winters that slowed the tree's growth ultimately gave it its resonant voice, leaving a peaceful lullaby embedded forever in the heartwood. Resting now in quiet wonder, we can feel the stillness of those distant forests, letting the soft, measured pulse of time carry us into deep, undisturbed sleep. As we drift deeper into the evening quiet, the ancient wood of trees continues to speak in soft, muted tones, carrying memories of profound landscape shapeshifts that unfolded across the centuries. Across serene coastal estuaries and still mountain waters, standing timber acts as a delicate natural archive, recording the subtle movements of the earth and the rising and falling of ancient waters. In the misty reaches of the Kopali's River estuary, along the coast of Washington state, gray trunks known as ghost forests stand like weathered sentinels above the salt marshes. For centuries, these silvered trees kept their secret until dendrochronologists turned to the growth rings preserved beneath their bark, cross-dating the outermost growth rings of standing dead western red cedars in the Kopali's River estuary of Washington state, revealed that the forest died simultaneously during the quiet winter of 1699-1700, when coastal land suddenly subsided into salt water. The swift arrival of brackish water brought an end to the living trees, yet the salt preserved their heartwood from decay, sealing the precise moment of transition within the final ring. Today, as evening tides wash gently through the channels, these red cedars remain standing in the quiet air, timeless markers of a forgotten winter when the shore settled into the sea. Moving inland toward the high, clear air of the Sierra Nevada, water preserves similar secrets beneath its glassy surface. High in the mountains, beneath the tranquil waters of Fallen Leaf, like near Lake Tahoe, ancient trees rest in the cold depths, standing upright just as they grew centuries ago. Dendrochronological analysis of preserved tree stumps standing upright at the bottom of Fallen Leaf, like near Lake Tahoe, revealed that slow-growing Jeffrey pines grew on dry land during a quiet multi-century drought between 900 and 1300 AD, before rising waters submerged them. During those dry centuries, the lake level had dropped significantly, allowing generations of Jeffrey pines to take root on what was then dry ground. Their rings grew narrow and steady year after year, documenting centuries of low rainfall and calm mountain air. When the climate shifted and snows returned to replenish the mountain basin, the rising waters submerged the forest floor, enveloping the trees in cold water that protected their timber from decay for nearly 1,000 years. These silent witnesses, whether standing in coastal salt marshes or resting deep within alpine lakes, remind us that the natural world moves in vast, breathing rhythms of land, climate, and time. Each ring hidden beneath dark lake waters or weathered by estuary winds holds a peaceful testament to nature's capacity for quiet memory. By reading these micro-thin bands of wood, science reconstructs ancient droughts, sudden land movements, and long periods of climate stability, weaving together a calm tapestry of Earth's past. As the darkness deepens and the evening grows quiet, the slow story recorded in tree rings offers a reassuring sense of permanence. We are invited to let go of the day's concerns, drifting into rest alongside the quiet trees that have stood through centuries of change, held gently in the timeless embrace of the world. As dusk settles over the distant corners of the earth, the world gently withdraws its light, yielding to the stillness of evening. Across quiet valleys and mist-laden ridges, the trees remain as steadfast sentinels, holding within their heartwood the memory of sunlit afternoons and long forgotten seasons. To walk among these living chronicles is to step into a realm where time is measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the steady, unhurried expansion of wood under soft rain, in the deep silence of the forest floor, where moss cushions every step and shadows stretch across damp soil. The story of our planet is preserved without noise. Every year leaves its tender mark beneath the bark, a delicate ribbon capturing the warmth of summer skies and the cool breath of autumn breezes. Here, in the fading twilight, the noise of human history fades into a distant whisper, replaced by the steady breathing of ancient roots anchored firm in the cool earth. The forest invites us to slow our thoughts, to drop the heavy burdens of the day, and to sink into the deep, enduring quiet that has filled these groves for thousands of years. In the far southern reaches of the world, where cool ocean winds sweep across the Pacific, this quiet record reaches remarkable depths. In the moist Valdivian temperate rainforests of southern Chile, slow-growing Patagonian cypress trees, known as alurce, contain microscopic annual rings that have preserved a continuous 5,682-year climate archive of southern hemisphere summer temperatures. Layer after microscopic layer, these patient trees have carved a silent ledger of ancient summer warmth, winter dampness, and gentle climate shifts across more than 56 centuries. Their wood grows so slowly that a century of growth may span only a fraction of an inch, each line finer than a strand of silk, locked safely inside trunks that have stood since early antiquity. As rainfall softly patters against scale-like leaves and trickles down moss-covered bark into rich forest loam, these ancient alurce trees keep their peaceful vigil. They ask for nothing except to stand, absorb the gentle moisture, and add one fine, invisible line to their eternal story. Contemplating such vast spans of quiet existence brings an overwhelming sense of calm, knowing that while the world rushes on, the trees simply continue their gentle work, capturing forgotten summers in their quiet cores. Now, as night spreads its dark, velvet canopy across the forest, the silent language of tree rings whispers its final, soothing cadence. The long history written in sapwood and heartwood slumbers quietly under the stars, guarded by the stillness of midnight. There are no more seasons to count tonight, no more bands of light and dark to decode, only the deep rest that comes to all living things beneath the sky. The forest breathes out a gentle sigh of damp earth and rain-washed pine, inviting your mind to drift away from the waking world and yield to the soft embrace of slumber. Let your thoughts settle into the calm rhythm of the ancient trees, floating effortlessly across thousands of years of quiet summer afternoons and peaceful nights. As the last light fades into darkness, all is quiet, all is steady, and the memory of the rings holds you safely in its peaceful fold. Sleep now, rest deeply, and let the quiet strength of the world's oldest forests guide your dreams into undisturbed peace.